Hello, welcome to Conservative Corner. I'm your host, Shannon Carey. And tonight I have with me State Representative Lisa Mazur. Thank you for joining us. So first off, I just want to say thanks for joining us. And why don't we start with what your job is as a state rep? What exactly do you do? How long is your term? Those kind of things.
Yeah, so I'm a state representative for Goffstown and Ware.
Okay.
So I'm what's called a flotarial. Yeah, and what I do.
It's a loaded question.
Yeah, so I attend House sessions.
Okay.
And though that varies in the amount of time, the amount of sessions we have depends on how many bills we have in a term. So we usually average about at least once a week from January through June 29th, the end of June. So it's loaded. Now I'm also on the Health, Human Services, and Elderly Affairs Committee. It's the second busiest committee in the House. So there's weeks I'm there 3 to 4 days.
Oh, wow.
And so I attend House session. I'm a committee member. But there's also, I'm also a legislator. So I just wrote my first, and prime sponsored my first bill that actually has to do, came about from Goffstown's dam and waterway situation. And that actually just, that was a bipartisan bill too, which was awesome.
Yeah.
And it went through the committee process, and just yesterday got word that it passed through the committee 19-0.
Oh, unanimous.
Ought to pass.
Awesome.
So it continues on in the process. And so that was my first time, because I am a freshman rep. I was elected in November of 2022. That was the first bill that I prime sponsored and saw through the process. And it was fascinating how that really happens. And it's a lot of work.
Yeah.
That you don't realize. So there's a whole lot of pieces to being a state representative, because you are representing all constituents in the town. So you are really listening all of the time and just learning from people and then making decisions based on that.
So while you may be conservative, you have to represent everybody.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay.
And I may not vote, there's everyone in our town's not always going to agree with the way I vote on things, just like they wouldn't with, a Democrat state representative. Conservatives may not agree with that, but that's the process.
Yeah.
But I still will listen, and I get emailed every day, I get calls, and I listen to everybody and take their opinion into account. Yeah.
Awesome. So what compelled you to run for state rep in the first place? Was there a specific situation that happened, or was it something that happened over time where you felt, it was time to get involved?
Yeah, so I lived here for 26 years on a green card from Canada. And so just, 5 years ago, not 2019, is when I really started to awaken to things that were happening in our government, in our country. Little just red flags were starting to go up in me. And then sure enough, COVID hit in 2020. And that's when I really awakened to things. And so I put my citizenship application in February of 2020.
Oh, wow.
Right? COVID blew up in March. So the process was just really slowed up. But I did get my citizenship later that year. I missed the election by a month. So this last one.
So this primary.
This year is my first real presidential.
That's exciting.
Yeah, that I can be involved in. So yes, I awakened to a lot of things during that. I know we've talked about this before, but once you see things, you can't unsee them. And then once I saw them, I had to then take the next step in trying to fix them.
Yeah.
And no, it's not all on me, but I can be a part of the process. And so that's what I did. And then, so I became a citizen, and then maybe, 2 years later, I was asked to run for state rep, and I did, and here we are.
Here we are.
So it was kind of a real fast moving
like
thing.
a roller coaster of a journey.
Yeah, but it's been an awesome adventure. Yeah.
Wow. So I know you from church. So I know one of your previous jobs was actually working for a large local church as their outreach director.
Yes.
Was there anything in that job that helped you prepare, now for what you're doing as a state rep?
Yeah, so there were thousands of people that attended that church, as you know, and it was a very, very active body of people, which I loved. So we would host events in inner city Manchester where we handed out thousands of backpacks to under-resourced families and immigrant families. But we also, set up tables where we partnered with community organizations who could help give them a hand up as well. Okay. So it wasn't just the handout part of it. It was coming alongside them, asking what they needed to kind of help, get on their feet. So that was a really beautiful event that we organized for many years in a row. And so just, project managing that, but also seeing the need that's around and trying to help with that. I also traveled all over the world to help in a global outreach effort. So came alongside, women's co-ops in Rwanda, traveled there 13 times, and also came alongside community leaders to assist them in teaching them things so that when we left, they'd just be able to keep going with their businesses and, micro businesses and setting up accounts. So we really involved in all of that, not just doing all the work for them.
But setting them up for success.
Yes, because that's what's sustainable and reproducible. So, we weren't interested in going in and just being this big wave of here we are, you lucky people, which is a horrible way to do things. But really coming alongside and the slums of India. I've been everywhere and brought people with me. So just so I've been around,
Yeah.
I've seen a lot in Manchester, which isn't that far away, and around the world. So I have a lot of experience on all different levels. That really did help.
Perspective.
Yes, it really did help me a lot with what I'm doing, and I didn't even know it.
Yeah.
So that was a nice surprise.
It's always crazy how God prepares you for the things that you're going to be doing.
Yeah, for sure.
So for those who don't know or are new to the whole process, because I know a lot of people in our community are just getting involved in things that are happening around here, what is the process of getting a bill written, supported, passed, put into law? What does that process sort of look like?
Yeah, so with I'll use my current bill as an example. It was, it's long story really short. Is a bill that gives municipalities the option, or the state the option to transfer ownership of a dam to a municipality.
Okay.
Just to give them an option, because we were faced with one of, our dam shutting down, and that blindsided us, and we had no options. So this just gives future towns in New Hampshire, and there are a lot of them that are facing the same issue, just some options in how to deal things so they're not feeling stuck in a certain situation. So I reached out to New Hampshire DES and NHMA, Municipal Association, and then we have the Office of Legislative Services, OLS. So we send them the idea for the bill. They contact the agencies that would be involved in all of that.
Okay.
And then they send us like a draft, because they have to go through some legal processes. There's an attorney it goes through and everything. So there's a big process to it. Then we get it back. And I have co-sponsors on the bill, and there were several, and from both parties. So you run it by the co-sponsors, and we're all in agreement. And we also have some senators on the bill as well. So our own Senator Keith Murphy, which is awesome.
Awesome.
And he also has the duplicate bill of mine in the Senate, which is being heard next week.
Exciting.
Yeah. So and then. You just kind of wait for it, and then once you get it back and everyone approves it, then a committee hearing gets scheduled for it. I showed up and presented on it. I brought the the agencies with me, the key players in that, and they spoke to it. Thankfully, they were all in high approval of it, so that made it, just the committee really appreciated their perspective on it too.
Wow.
It was great.
Yeah, so there's a lot of players.
There is a lot to it, and that was a whole learning curve too. So now when I write my next one, it'll be a much smoother process because it takes once to, and then I got it. But
Well, recently, I know that there were a series of bills that went through the House, and they were labeled as the transgender bills.
Yeah.
One was about New Hampshire becoming a sanctuary state for treatment. Another was about preventing minors from certain surgeries, which I've seen on social media labeled as medical discrimination. And the final one I saw was labeled as a lawful discrimination bill that dealt with gender when it comes to bathrooms and sports. Could you share a little bit more about what these bills were actually about, as opposed to kind of what social media is saying they're about, and what was your stance on them?
Yeah. So the first one is HB 368, which is what you mentioned would have allowed New Hampshire to become a sanctuary state for gender transitioning for minors.
So not adults, minors.
Well, I mean, it could be anybody,
Okay.
but minors were part of that equation.
Okay.
And that's where the controversy does come in, because a lot of us, myself included, think, do what you'd like as an adult. It's where these gender assignment surgeries, and I'm going to say like irreversible surgeries.
No, they're irreversible.
Yeah.
It's proven.
Yeah, are done on children is the deal breaker.
Okay.
And so I actually spoke to that from the well in the House because, and the reason I did speak to that is because it came through my committee.
Okay.
HHSEA. That bill came through my committee, and
So someone has to speak
So
on
I
it.
was assigned to speak to it. Yeah. And I was also on a subcommittee for it as well. So we got hung up on it in committee, and so we sent it to a subcommittee, and I was one of 6 on a subcommittee for it. So, and that's, and we came to an impasse in that as well. So it went to the House floor with no recommendation, which means out of 20 people, it went 10 to 10.
Okay.
Right? So then it goes to the House floor, and then we figure it out on the House floor. And actually, we ended up, so this was a bill that I spoke against, and we actually got that by 2 votes. So we call it, ITL'd it, we killed the bill by 2 votes.
Okay.
So that was one. And again, it's just because of the minor piece of it.
Okay.
And then the second one was HB 619, was probably the one everybody's heard about.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, is prohibiting gender transition surgery, irreversible, on children.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that one was not related to adults, am I correct? It
Right,
was
that was
specifically
specific to children.
Okay.
And actually, that's the one where Representative Jonah Wheeler, he's a Democrat from Peterborough, and he's a friend of mine. But he got up there and spoke actually
So brave.
for the bill.
So brave.
And wow, I mean, he had the whole, everyone was just so quiet in there, and incredibly brave what he did, but he paid for it after. So yeah, the long story as to how that day went down, because the minute he left that well, some things happened. They had to call in the state police because of some of the bullying happening and the name calling. So it's unfortunate that someone is unable to get up and voice their opinion on something and then be treated in a certain way.
And that was from his own party.
From his, absolutely, yes. Actually, yeah. And so it really, the free speech element of it, because, as a state representative, he has that right too. And yeah, that was, so again, that we actually passed that bill, not by 2 votes, by 14, I believe. So it was a bipartisan,
It wasn't just him that stood
and
up.
it
There
wasn't
were
just
many people.
Republicans. Several Democrats voted with us on that because they also believe that the deal breaker in all of this irreversible surgery talk for children is
Yeah.
no. We've heard a lot of stories. I have 2 friends who went through gender transitioning.
Okay.
And are now in their 20s, and they have like significant body parts removed and insides removed so that they are permanently sterile, and they have really bad health issues as a result, and they'll tell you that openly. So you, again, something you hear, you can't unhear.
Yeah.
And so that plays into a lot of decisions that you make too. So yeah, those were two big bills.
If I understand correctly with that whole process, it's not like these are the bills that come up, say what you want to say and vote how you want to vote. There's actually a lot, like people bring in experts and doctors and.
Oh, yes.
I know you heard from detransitioners. So
Yes.
it's not like you weren't informed on your decision-making
Oh, yes,
process.
that committee hearing, we actually had to host that in Reps Hall because there were hundreds of people that came to that.
wow.
We were there for 8 hours
On one bill.
on one bill.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so, and that was a while back, but yeah. And then the last one that we'll talk about is HB 396, which is, people are calling it the bathroom bill, and it's not a mandated thing either. It gives schools and other bodies the option to, just say, hey, girls, your changing room is just for girls. So biological males can't be in there changing with little girls or using their bathroom, or participating in girls' sports.
Okay.
So it gives schools the option to say, you know what, this sport is for women. If you were born a male, you cannot participate.
But it's not a mandate.
It's
You're
not a
saying
mandate.
It gives the schools the option
to make that decision on their own. Yes.
Yeah. See, you don't really hear that part
Exactly.
of it when people are talking
Yeah,
about it.
the Republican Party, we're not big on mandates.
I was going to say, generally, they don't like to tell you what you're doing.
We like the option piece. But we also are stepping up for women too and children.
Yeah.
So, believe it or not, I was an avid athlete in high school. And to see what's happening to women's sports, if that were to have happened when I was playing, I couldn't have imagined that, because I received awards and things like that. I would have never gotten any of that. And honestly, what I learned from being involved in sports and captain of sport helped in leadership skills and everything, which we're taking away from women.
Yeah.
And so I consider myself kind of a conservative feminist. It's been a long day. I've been in committee all day. So, I really, there's certain things that if I'm gonna stand up for women, I'm gonna do it, and this is one of them. And little kids and little girls.
Yes, little girls.
Little girls.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, that are looking to us.
So actually, that bill did pass, and a lot of Democrats did side with us on that too. I shouldn't say a lot, several. And then what happens, and this is the law, it's allowed within 24 hours, if you voted with the prevailing side, you can then turn around and ask for reconsideration of it. And a Democrat did. So he was talked into changing his opinion. And
like
so in House session on February 1st, that's one of the first bills we'll be reconsidering.
Oh, wow.
Or taking up. And I will be voting against that reconsideration.
Wow.
Yes. Yeah, good times.
Like a roller coaster up there. It's like a soap opera.
Right? Yeah.
So I do want to add, I know we're limited on time, but I wanted to know, I know you do a lot of work at the State House.
Yeah.
But you're also available to help local residents with issues. Have there been any instances that stick out to you where you have been able to come alongside a resident and help them with an issue in our town, not at the state level?
Yeah, and I'm sure everybody's heard about it, and I didn't see this coming, honestly. There was a parent, a mom, that walked through the Mountain View Middle School, and she noticed some alarming content on the whiteboard at the middle school. Like there was a genderbread man, so not a gingerbread man, a genderbread man, and then it had arrows pointing to some interesting places on his body and
Okay.
explanations of things. And we're talking about middle school.
And Mountain View is 5 through 8, so
Yeah.
you're like 10, 11-year-olds.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then there was other content on there, and she had no idea what to do. We didn't know each other at all, her and I.
Okay.
She messaged me and she said, I don't know where to go with this. You're a state rep. I don't know you, but can you help us?
Like, what do I do?
Yeah, because
Okay.
she knows that other parents were concerned about this too. So I told her to just put it out to other parents, and then whatever they wanted to do is to let me know, and I'd support them the best way I could. And sure enough, we did have a lot of parents.
Yes, we did.
And it all came about very quickly. We didn't rile people up. The parents, when they heard that, and they didn't know that was there, they spoke up, and they spoke up fast. And so that was the first time that, a resident reached out and said, her first word was help.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so it was, I can't ignore that.
No.
And yeah, so I tried to come alongside best I could. Yeah, people say, well, you're a state representative, you should stick to state stuff, but I represent.
I was going to say, we elected you, though.
Yeah, the people of Goffstown, as well as where I've been to Ware school board meetings as well. So, and there's RSAs in place that say you have to give parents 2 weeks notice when you put any questionable content like that up in front of them.
Yeah.
And so that was breaking that RSA. So when a law is being broken, then yeah, I'm going to step in. So I
Yeah.
did.
Well, I was at some of those meetings, and I remember thinking first, like, to this mom who got up and spoke, because I had no clue who she was. I just saw on Facebook the post of what it was. And you could tell, like, it was not her desired moment to have.
Yeah.
Like, this was, like, so out of her comfort zone.
Yeah.
But you could tell she really had a heart for protecting not only her kids, but especially all of us parents who had no clue that information was there. Like, she was speaking up for
Yeah.
all of those parents and their rights. So I know personally for me in those meetings, I really just wanted to see parents have a choice in the matter. Excuse me. But there are parents that, wish to have their kids have that information, which is totally cool. I know for me it was about what was appropriate and what wasn't, and having a say in what my child is going to see. Just like they should have a right to see what their child is going to see. And I know you spoke with many parents. There was a lot of emails, there was phone calls, there was this message and that message. And I felt on the back end that a lot of parents were labeled as transphobic, anti-LGBTQ. I heard several parents get up and speak that we wish to erase their children. So in all your conversations with parents, what was your take on how they felt? What was your read on their opinions and thoughts on the LGBTQ community?
That's a great question. I think the word I got the most was they were scared because an extreme leftist in our town went and put up on a page that we need to put these parents' names on a wall of shame, on a public wall of shame. And when a lot of parents saw that, so that's where it's a joke, I know, the anonymous posts on Facebook, but that came about as a result of people feeling unsafe.
Okay.
It takes a lot for you to get up, and they knew they were on, GTV in that meeting, and to get up and state their name and their address that they lived in Goffstown, that takes a lot of guts.
It does.
But then the minute they did that and they left that meeting, yes, they got
Yeah.
the attacks came. And so that's, they felt unsafe. They were alarmed that they didn't know that was there before. And now a lot of them are having different conversations with their children now, which that's the part of this I appreciate, is now when their kids are coming home from school, it's a different conversation around the dinner table, which is important. Yeah.
Did
So.
you get a sense from those people that they were against the LGBTQ
Not at all.
community?
Not at all. A lot of us have friends and family part of that community.
Yeah.
So no, that's actually offensive when people say that, because it's not that at all. It's just, it's when the children, the children come into play, and the, like we talked about before, the irreversible surgeries and the things that are being put in front of children that a lot of them just aren't ready for yet. So I think that's what parents are saying, is just let kids be kids and let us be the ones.
To have
It's
that
not the school's
conversation.
job to do that. Let us be the ones. And if it is in middle school, as a parent wants to do that, then fine. But some parents don't. So it should be up to the parents wherever they're at to be the
So
ones.
that's ultimately the vibe you got, was parents just wanted the option to have that conversation.
Absolutely. And some of them will choose to, and some will not.
Yeah.
And ultimately, it should be up to them. That is not the school's role. The school's role is to teach them the academics. And it always has been, and it should always, it always should be.
Amen to that.
Yeah.
Amen
I mean,
to that.
I don't know how.
For me as a parent,
I don't know
amen
how
to
that
that.
not became a thing, but it is now.
It is now,
I
yeah,
know.
for sure.
Yeah.
Well, we're almost out of time, and I want to make sure I can get in there. If residents need to or want to get in touch with you,
Yeah.
or they have questions, or even if they want to share support of a bill or even distaste for a bill,
Sure.
How can people get in touch with you?
Yeah, I mean, I'll preempt it by saying, so I do have a state representative Facebook page, and I used to have all, I would post and have the comments all open, and the extreme leftists in our town really just took it over, and it became a full-time job for me to kind of navigate that. So yes, publicly I put out there like, hey guys, I'm just going to shut off comments for everybody, because legally I'm not going to block you and I'm not going to delete your comments.
Right.
But if you want to have a civil conversation with me and ask me a question, then email me.
Okay.
My phone number is public information. I've actually met some people from the other party for coffee in our town.
That's awesome.
And I'll do that anytime. So there's ways to contact me and have conversations. We all know social media sometimes, especially in this crazy world we're in now, is not the best thing for that. And the attacking and the name calling and the vitriol, that it's almost like you put something up and it's like blood in the water and all the everybody just they fly
They go
in
in for the
there.
kill,
Yeah,
yeah.
and that's sad to me. That's sad that we're in that now. Let's
is.
have conversations. And I'll say, like, I have a lot of friends from the other party in the state house and beyond. And it's a beautiful thing. And we'll enter that reps hall and we'll disagree vehemently on a bill, but then we'll leave that room and hug it out. That's
so
what we
awesome.
should all be doing
That's
right
how it
now.
should be.
Right.
It's okay to disagree.
Yeah. So
it's okay.
right, exactly. We do need to get back to that. And I think and I know that when I had coffee with those people, that they saw that, I'm not this person that certain
People are
people in our
portraying
town
you.
are portraying me as. I'm not that person. So, I mean, maybe some days I am, but most days I'm not.
I don't find you that way.
I hope not. So,
Well,
yeah.
I just want to thank Representative Mazur for joining us today, and just sharing, all that you have. And I want to thank GTV for encouraging community members to get creative and giving us a vehicle to have a voice. So
Yes.
be sure to tune in again or look for these videos on social media.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.